Good evening, good evening. Welcome to a limited edition Check It Out show, folks.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to be back and great to see you. We've kind of gone for a simultaneously equal background here. Nicely mirrored as well, but then I've got just two of us in here, Al.
Absolutely. Well, all attention to detail. That's what's most important. And hopefully everyone can guess from our background themes, if not the title that we were using to broadcast the event, that we are very much with the Dubai focus for tonight's show.
I've even managed to bring my Dubai mug out for a little bit of a showcase as well. So, really looking forward to the show, and a little bit of a different flavour to this episode of the Check It Out show. Not only have we obviously got our usual smorgasbord, or what's your word? Do you use cornucopia?
Yes.
That's the word, isn't it? Yeah, of guests coming on, but it's a really fantastic event and a real opportunity for us to showcase some broader perspectives. And as the introductory video said, we'll be hearing from a few guests today who've not only been there, but people involved in organising the events. And we're also hearing from a previous multi-award winner, who's also a judge in the GESS Awards this year as well. Someone who's been to the event, spoken at the event. I think if he was on TV, he would have sort of written the theme tune and sung the theme tune. Now, what do you think?
I reckon he might have done, but I think there might be one other award winner on the show this evening as well, isn't there, Mr. Anderson?
Well, there might be, but I think it might make two of us, actually, Mr. Kingsley.
Well, as a business, maybe, not as an individual for prowess, so slightly different.
It was. I used to run a show with Ollie Lewis, who you might get to see on screen in a short while, called Learn Live UAE, and it was a sort of a pandemic-driven kind of initiative, bringing teachers together to come on and share about teaching and learning and how to make the most of technology during that time. And we won a response to the pandemic award. For the show that we put together. We ran conferences, weekly shows over the course of 3 years. Really, worthwhile endeavour. Lots of people came on and we shared. I mean, Ollie could probably quote you the stats. He's a stats guy, but many hours, hundreds of different teachers and school leaders coming on and sharing. And I think it was sort of showed the best of what education has to offer during a time, really. Teachers coming together, sharing good practice, and in it trying to help each other out for the children that we all try and serve and in the communities that we work with. So, it was a lovely thing to happen. Unfortunately, I couldn't go and collect it, but
no, well, you can't have everything, but it was very well deserved to both of you on that one.
Thank you, Al. Thank you.
So it's not long now. We've only got, I'd like to measure these things in very professional sleeps. So I think we've got 6 sleeps now till the show, 7 possibly, depending on how excited you really are. But it's creeping up on us, and it's something that we are big fans of. We're going to talk about the event with some of our guests tonight, but I actually think part of it is just actually about community and people, and many who perhaps are new to the sphere might not realize that actually there's a huge expat teaching community working in the UAE as well. And it's actually a great melting pot from teachers from all around the world, really, isn't it? So it's a great place to share and pick up some really cool ideas as well.
No, absolutely. And so we talk about the expats from the UK. I mean, there's an awful lot of UK and teachers over there, but there's a big American community over there as well. Lots of American academies and American schools, and obviously then American teachers in the region as well. So like I say, it's a real melting pot. And whilst we talk about the UAE, it's not just the UAE as well. It's those sort of surrounding countries that get involved as well. So you get to hear from countries from Oman. So we saw, for example, Kai Vasha, head at British School Muscat, sharing recently an event at the Jumeirah English speaking school. Lots of schools come together and try and work collaboratively in the region, which is something which has grown massively actually in the past sort of decade. There's been a real growth. Historically, lots of schools would be quite competitive. There's a big sort of independent school market out there, as many of our viewers will know. But equally, you're seeing lots of teachers coming together now, the likes of Andy Price starting things like Collab UAE, and lots of educators doing lots of things to try and bring people together, a bit like we did with Learn Live UAE. just trying to sort of connect and all of that. So if you're going to be new to the event, really looking forward to helping you sort of plan what you might want to see over there, some of the sort of events that are happening, speakers, because it's not just about visiting the vendors. There's lots of professional learning opportunities at the event as well. So yeah, lots to see and learn and participate in beyond picking up the odd coffee mug and a bit of swag from obviously a great product as well from your visit to the vendor arena.
And more importantly, much as we're talking about all this, we are flying a little bit of a Union Jack this evening to talk about BESA and many of the UK EdTech vendors who are going to be taking the journey over the next week across to Dubai. And we've got such a thriving community in the UK and so much innovation. Literally every month there seems to be new solutions and new ideas coming to market. And very much in that mindset of evidence-informed, co-produced technology, really, really rich in terms of community engagement. So I'm quite pleased. I know we've got a couple of voices on of other vendors who are going to be having a chat with their experiences. But if we have time at the end, Mark, maybe we'll just signpost a few other cool vendors that we know are going to be part of that UK pavilion that we can signpost as well.
No, I think that'd be a great idea because it's difficult, isn't it, when you go to a big event to actually know what's there and who to see, and actually, if we can signpost a few sort of waggles, what a good one looks like to go and have a little a conversation with about how they can support learning and teaching, or because it isn't just about learning and teaching, is it? It could be your IT asset management, it could be safeguarding. There's so many ways in which EdTech can help schools
and not just digital.
Work,
there's some great physical tools, learning resources as well, isn't there? So
absolutely.
It's a real mixture, and that's the nice thing, really. Is it's not always looking for the things that you had on your list, but it's also discovering things that you didn't know were available, alongside those great sort of CPD sessions. Listen, I'm always mindful that we have set a worldwide record of never managing to stay on time for anything together on our shows. We're obviously very enthusiastic and huge supporters and fans of the GESS show. Shall we ask somebody direct from the horse's mouth about GESS and the show and what people can expect, rather than us giving our ideas and feedback?
Yeah, let's do that. So we'd like to introduce our very first guest onto the show then, Al.
I would. Coming direct from GESS, wherever in the world she may be right now, we have Sarah Palmer joining us.
Hi guys, how are you?
We're doing very well, thank you. Good to see you.
Good. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's great to see you both.
You are very welcome. Thanks for making time to come and talk to us. I think that's the more important bit.
No problem at all.
So where in the world are you this evening then?
I'm in London, actually. We all fly out on Saturday to Dubai, apart from the team that are out there already. So yes, we're sort of in the final preparations, ready for the show next week. So yeah.
And can I ask, have you been measuring the Dubai event in number of sleeps, or do you use a more
to be honest, well, it's been in the run up to the show, it's always so manic, so you tend to kind of lose track of what day you're on, just trying to get everything done ready. So yeah, I guess we are number of sleeps now. Yeah, it's just snuck up really quickly. No, not at all.
So you've probably gathered that Mark and I are big fans of the event. We love the show. We love the whole feel and vibe of the event. For those listening in who perhaps haven't had the opportunity to visit GESS themselves, could you perhaps give us a bit of a summary about the event and some of the things that people can expect to see this year?
Sure. So this will be our 15th edition, and we're always proud to run it under the patronage of Sheikh Mohammed and with the support of the Ministry of Education. I think something we feel really strongly about the event is to engage with both the public and private sectors, because we feel that teachers learn best from teachers, and we try and engage as much as possible. And we do try and talk to the education community throughout the year to gauge the content. And I think Rona, who's heading up the conference this year, has done a fantastic job. We've got some really amazing speakers this year. And I think when I looked last time, we have about 270 plus speakers this year. So it's a phenomenal number coming in from globally, really, and as well sort of looking at local practitioners. And I think that's key as well, having that sort of share of both global, sort of the sort of higher sort of level of what's going on in the teaching community, and then really sort of pegging down into the nitty gritty for those who are on the ground in the countries we have the event. We've got a number of new conference streams this year, so future transformation, growth mindset, and skills development. So for the skills development, those are going to be slightly longer sessions, because one of the feedbacks we had was that it was important to have those longer sessions that were more workshop style. So people will be in there for a bit longer to really sort of get under the skin of sort of key educational trends and sort of key issues they flagged to us. So that's sort of the conference side. We're bringing in Rob Houben and also Gavin McCormack, so two quite well-known speakers and people who have some really interesting things to say. On the exhibition side, there's some really good stuff happening. So we've got, I know you were sort of touching on some of the EdTech and new products before I came on, but we've got one of the biggest, I think, startup pavilions we've ever had, which I think sort of shows a number of sort of new products to market, and was more successful than we planned. But it's great to have that, because we know those sort of innovative products, new to market products, are so key for teachers and visitors when coming to the show. We've got the largest North American sort of contingent of exhibitors we've ever had. We've got Korea, Germany, UK, India, and Saudi pavilions again this year, and about 300 plus exhibiting brands from 38 countries. So it's shaping up to be a really good show, and we're really excited about it.
And which country's pavilion is best?
Oh, I couldn't possibly say.
It's worth a try.
I know. But obviously, you know, the Brits, it's always really good quality products, innovative products, and I think a big range again, which is sort of testament to BISA and sort of all the people coming as part of that pavilion.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sarah. You touched on something that I wanted to sort of ask you about as well, because the Middle East, particularly Dubai, is a real hotbed for innovation. It's great to see that you've got such a big sort of startup area are going to be happening within the exhibition. Could you share some of the perhaps sort of the areas where innovation is being seen? Is it more sort of businesses sharing things around artificial intelligence or robotics, or are there any sort of trends you're spotting there at all?
Yes, I mean, you've touched on a couple there that we're definitely seeing a sort of huge increase in that, a lot around Web3, the metaverse, NFTs still, that's sort of all kind of quite prominent, we're finding, and we're sort of finding there's more and more companies sort of coming with those sort of products to the show. Yeah, a lot of AI, AR, and sort of the virtual reality, and I think sort of the uses with seeing the sort of suppliers coming with that, we're backing that up with the conference content. So how teachers can use that in the classroom, because I think they're quite scary terms. And I think the technology is moving so quickly and so fast with these things that, you know, teachers want to know what to do and how to put that in the classroom for the best way to sort of benefit their pupils and sort of push forward their teaching.
One thing that stood out to me, which is something that I often like to talk about because I think it's so important, is that elevating that focus on skills. So that was really interesting to hear you've got that skills stream. Are you able to share any kind of topics that are going to be covered on that? Are you?
Yes, I know a few of them, and you'll forgive me if I'm not able to name the sort of wide range of them, because we've got so much going on. But I know we've got sort of sessions about sort of STEAM and engaging girls in particular in that room, how to program robots. So it's sort of very sort of practical skills based in there as well. So yes, there's quite a wide range of topics within that, and sort of people coming to do that. So I think a lot of our keynotes and speakers in the mainstream are doing their sort of talks, high level talks, and then coming and doing workshops in there to sort of really get down into the nitty gritty for people.
Brilliant. Now, it's great seeing you sort of still engaging with the likes of Steve Bambury, for example, not only someone who's got the sort of classroom experience and of knowing what it looks like in the classroom, but also a real thought leader in that field as well, and others as well. So no, really good to see the programme and how it's lying. And what are you looking forward to the most yourself, Sarah?
It's always nice for us to be on site and meet with everyone, really, that sort of buzz of being on site at the show. I like we do a lot of video content. So for me, sort of getting around chatting to people, and I'm always surprised by what I see on the show floor. So we're obviously quite involved with the exhibitor list. We've been doing show previews, we've been looking at products and sort of on social media, but you sometimes don't know quite what you're going to see at the show, and I think that's the nice thing. We've been surprised by sort of students being on stands playing instruments, or sort of just products you wouldn't expect, and sometimes it's a shame exhibitors don't highlight those more to us, because there'd definitely be a real interest in a lot of the stuff they're doing.
I wanted to ask you, Sarah. I'm sorry for jumping in there, Al.
That's all right.
So, having been someone who's worked and attended the event and been involved with yourself and other schools and things in the region, so one sort of staff room squabble that often comes up is something that's kind of similar to the whole GIF and GIF conversation. So,
we know where this is going.
I was wondering if you could put to bed the conversation which happens sometimes, where somebody might call it GESS and they might call it GESS. Which is it, Sarah?
We call it GESS, but we don't mind what you call us as long as you come to the show. To be honest, we have a different name whatever country we were in. When we were in Mexico, it was HESS, GESS elsewhere, GESS. So yeah, we're easy on that.
Great stuff, thank you. Sorry, I jumped in front of you then, Al.
To be honest, Mark, that was a far more important question, because that's created so many heated arguments over the years that I'm glad we've got a definitive, which is basically it doesn't really matter.
No.
As we're wrapping this up, and of course we're really looking forward to catching up with you. See you in a week's time, and the show I know is going to be amazing. There will be some listening in over the next 24, 48 hours to the Check It Out show who may be in the Emirates and thinking about, is it still a chance to grab a ticket and come along? How are we doing on numbers? Is it still availability if people want to register to come along and join the fun?
Yes, definitely. I think one of the things we try and do with all our events is run them for free for visitors. So yes, it's free to attend. And if you go to the website, GESSDubai.com, you can register on there for free. There's a full exhibitor list, the conference program. So people can check us out there. We're also on social media. And, we're very happy to hear from people if you want to message us, and we can tell you more information.
Fantastic. Lovely to see you, and see you in a week.
Yes, and thank you so much
for thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been lovely to see you both.
Our pleasure.
Brilliant. Cheers. Take care, Sarah. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks. Well, I'm glad that's been put to bed once and for all, Al.
HESS, I think, was the outcome, wasn't
it? Yes, was the answer. I think yes.
It's one of those funny ones where I think it's where a show has kind of cemented itself in the annual calendar when discussing pronunciation of the aforementioned show becomes such a heated topic. But great to hear some of the streams and strands that are going to be there. We all talk about the expo, but in reality, most people first and foremost come to the event for the CPD, the conference program. And hearing there's that many speakers is fantastic. I mean, it's going to be such a diversity of subjects to dive into. Definitely going to be in edu sponge mode again.
Yeah, and the hard part, I think, with that volume as well, is going to be sort of picking and choosing which to. I mean, for me, it'd be like going into a sweet shop. Is that, what do you want? Because there's so much on offer, isn't there?
Absolutely, there is. Yeah, but what a lovely problem to have.
Yes, absolutely.
All of our favourite conferences that we attend, we have the same challenge, which is we're there. We want to talk to people about technology and our products. We want to network with our friends and colleagues across the sector. And then somehow we have to find time to go and see all the really juicy CPD sessions that are available. It's never possible to fit them all in.
No. But you did mention in the conversation with Sarah about which the best pavilion might be. I think we've got someone who might give a more definitive answer to that as our
I think
next
you could
guest.
be right.
Do you think so? It gives me great pleasure to welcome our next guest onto the Check It Out show, the one and only at CJP Wright, who I often refer to her rather than her real name, Caroline Wright, Director General at Visa. Welcome, Caroline.
Hello, hi guys. It's lovely to be here. Hi.
Lovely to see you.
It's
Nice to
it
see
seems
you.
quite a surprise to see you in the UK at this time. You seem to have been all over the place recently.
It's been busy, and it's a great thing, because actually GESS last year was the first big international show to reopen after kind of the period of when we're all at home. So that was just a phenomenal event to actually, as well as all the great stuff Sarah was talking about, it was just nice to see friends and colleagues from around the world again. So that last year was really exciting, and I think this year will be even more so.
I think you're right. Yeah, definitely so.
So, what are we looking forward to then, Caroline? What's is sort of going to be happening in the Biza in the Biza Pavilion?
Yeah, well, it's great. So GESS is the event where we have the largest UK pavilion of all the events we take UK companies to around the world. So that personally makes me feel really proud working with the British companies out there. This year we have a phenomenal number of UK companies. We have 54 British companies exhibiting at GESS, so that's fantastic, and most of them will be on the UK pavilion. So right at the heart of the show, you'll see the flag, the Union Jack. Come and grab a coffee. We've got a little sort of coffee bar at the front, so that companies on our pavilion, when they can have sort of more in-depth conversations with teachers and visitors to GESS. So it'll be really, really vibrant. We've got a team. Julia and Joe will be out there, so we'll be flying the flag for kind of our British companies. And you're right, it is a really nice mix. I think there's lots of strong tech companies, but also there's hands-on resources. There's sort of tactile learning. There's, you know, it's really quality kind of British products and services out there as well.
We are very lucky with the diversity of the portfolio from the Biza companies and the vendors that tend to head over there. We are talking tonight about GESS or HESS or GESS, depending on your preferred choice. But for those listening in and hearing you chat about Biza's role in helping facilitate and coordinate lots of us being over there, where else in the world could new UK edtech startups engage with Biza and get support to grow their visibility?
Well, I'd love, and reach out to me. I think my Twitter handle, it'd be great to talk to anyone. So we work really closely with the Department for International Trade, and we sort of adopt a bit. There's sort of 3 strands to kind of working out where in the world can go, because it's a big place, and kind of an edtech or a Biza company or a startup, you know, has limited funds. You can't do all, you know, nigh on 200 countries in the world. So where are the best opportunities? Where will you have the biggest impact? Every year we go out to our Biza members and we listen to where they say they're interested. And it really does vary depending on what your product and service is. So some countries, you know, they might be very content led. Other countries might need more sort of teacher CPD and support. Other countries might not be there yet, and they actually need the system building and support. But it's a mix. It also very much depends on a government's appetite for technology and British exports and support. And I think what British companies do really well is they don't tend to go in and throw their weight around and tell different countries or schools how to do things. It's very much about listening. What are the challenges a country faces? How have we got experience in addressing similar challenges? Have we worked in places where we've maybe supported addressing that? And how could we adapt that to the particular market? So rather than just chucking in a solution and expecting it to work, I think kind of the real key is, and where we see really successful companies working, is where they work hand in hand with, whether it's an independent school or a government or a district, on making change. So we get an understanding, and we're really lucky actually as a country to have, we have an international education champion called Sir Steve Smith, and he's the former Vice Chancellor of Exeter University, so he really knows his onions about sort of the world of education. He is kind of the Prime Minister's envoy effectively, so he's able to go in at that ministerial level for some really helpful conversations, and then, you know, people like me and some other colleagues from the British international schools and so on and universities can help signpost other sectors, whether it's skills that a government needs or technology or some teacher support and so on. So we work very hand in hand on that front. And then we also, it comes down to things like knowing people like Sarah, knowing people like the GESS team who can really put together a good event that we can trust and feel comfortable saying to a British company, this one's good, it's worth going out there because you'll meet the right people. So I would love to say there's a really sexy algorithm that gives us kind of the top 20, but actually it's kind of a mishmash of conversations and working things out. And sometimes it's just trying a new market. For example, last month I was in Cambodia, which isn't a very large market, but there's a real emergence of kind of a growing middle class. There's lots of cranes everywhere. There's lots of building. It's kind of really a happening place with a strong appetite for improving their education system. We took 9 BESA EdTech companies out there last month, and we were supported fantastically by the British Consulate and the Department for Trade and Industry out there, who sort of introduced us to the international schools. The Minister of Education came and spoke to us, and it's been some really good follow-up. So that's kind of something that just came out of a conversation that we knew that there's a good appetite and growing appetite in that market. So I would say the ASEAN, so Vietnam, we've got an event next April that we're running in partnership with the Vietnamese ministry. It's called the Ministry of Education and Training in Vietnam. That's a very good market. The Thailand and Indonesia and that region very strong, and then the Middle East very, very strong, and then there are lots, depending on what your products are, there are other regions too.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Karen. That's really interesting. I'm just wondering, one of my questions to Sarah is about innovation, and we see a huge hotbed of innovation in the UK, not just when it comes to educational technology, but lots of products and services into education. How are we seeing that sort of that sort of move of companies that are going over to GESS, that are going to be joining you in the BESA pavilion there? How are we shaping up?
It's great. There is a really, really nice mix. And I think this year, so we've got, like I said, kind of hands-on companies, tech companies, but actually I think there is a new Minister for Education that was appointed earlier in the year. We did have Minister Hamadi for a number of years, who's a fantastic supporter of education and technology. There are new ministers. There has been some ministerial change. So it's very interesting, I think. We'll be finding out the new direction of the government in that way. But I know they are very, very keen on AI. They actually have a ministry and a minister of AI. The new minister is also very, very keen on early years education. So I think we'll start to see some real focus on some of those sort of areas that we might not have seen as much in the past. So I think it'll be very interesting to listen. And I mean, you've just heard how many speakers there are. So listening to kind of what the ministry says. And they also, very pleasingly, they've always got lots of translator packs, so kind of you can go and actually make sure, and I think that's really important, listening in the different sort of to actually learn. So it will be very exciting, and there's also a strong interest, and we've got a very strong contingent of sort of well-being companies and assessment out there as well this year.
So I'm not sure if you mentioned, Caroline, which is the best pavilion at GESS to head over to?
Well, funnily you should say, I do think it might just be the British one, and I do get a bit excited by this, but it's the largest. We have the biggest and best pavilion at GESS. So do come and see it. I
think everyone should make a point of coming over, checking out, because in my experience every year, it's also the friendliest place to go. Of course, everyone's friendly. Finally, and listen, thank you. I think it's only right just to also share a thanks, not just for giving up your time this evening to join the conversation, but for you and the team continuing to fly the flag for so many British companies. So, there's a huge amount of work going on. So a big thank you for that.
Thank you. And it makes us very proud to be able to do it, because it's just, whenever we meet any company and you hear the effort that goes into building the product and actually doing it all for the right reasons, it makes it really important. So thank you.
Lovely to see you this evening. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, Karen. Thanks. Bye. And of course, the coffee will be the best as well. So,
absolutely,
another reason to go and join the rest of the team over there in the British Pavilion. How are we doing for time? I think we're pretty much absolutely spot on time this evening, aren't we, Al?
There's plenty of time to spoil that, Mark.
Well, I'm just going to press a little button here now, and you might want to do a little bit of a costume change while I do this, Alan. Don't worry, Katie. I'm pressing the buttons on purpose. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome our next guest onto the show. You might be aware of him. He's a fantastic host of a great show called the Check It Out Show. He's the managing director of a hugely successful edtech company. He's an author. He's a keynote speaker. He doesn't really need the introduction, so I'll be quiet and just bring Mr. Kingsley straight back onto the show. Welcome, Mr. Kingsley. You are in fact our next guest. Hi, how are you doing since I last spoke to you?
Since I last spoke to you, things are fairly consistent, thank you. But lovely to see you again.
You too. I think you might have swapped sides on the screen, but I think that's probably about the only difference, isn't it? There hasn't been a costume change at all. Look, you're not only involved in GESS, HESS, GESS, yes, with your net support hat on, but you're involved in some other ways this year as well, aren't you, Al?
I am. I'm very excited. It's always nice to get a chance to meet people, but I've also been asked to share and facilitate. So first up, I am going to be running a session and delivering a presentation about a topic that's close to my heart and your heart, Mr. Anderson, but moving along a bit. So we've talked for a few years, certainly when we think of moving through the pandemic and out the other side, about the need for schools to think about their digital vision and how that shapes into a digital strategy. And the narrative much more now, and because let's be honest, most schools have got a sense now that digital is higher up the priority scale, is thinking much more about the what next. How do we actually take those ambitions and move forward cohesively as a collaborative within the school? And rightly so. Also, how do we actually measure? So how do we make the right choices about what technology is genuinely adding value and impact? How do we make that right selection process? And then how do we monitor and evaluate it on an ongoing basis? So I am going to be doing a session on Tuesday. I'd love to say at what time. I want to say it's at midday-ish. But it's all available on the NetSpot website, or of course on the GESS website with the schedules. So yeah, I'll be talking and just sharing some rubrics, some ideas, some next steps of how we can kind of in bite-sized chunks. I think you and I, Mark, we've talked on many occasions talking about digital strategies and that challenge over, is it a race to who's got the most? How quick do you go? And of course, the answer is every school's different, depends on your teaching cohort and your student cohort. But I think there's a little bit of a nervousness because the one thing that hasn't freed up as yet for most schools is capacity and time. It's still challenged with time about wanting to move forward, but not wanting to make the wrong choices. And that's a really tough one. So trying to set a few rubrics and next steps to try and help on that process, I think is kind of really important. So I'm going to share those ideas on the Tuesday. And then on the Thursday, really kind of linking back to what Sarah was talking about, I am going to be chairing a panel about the metaverse and the future implications for education. And I think sometimes when we talk metaverse, we all get a bit either, ooh, don't know what that's all about, or goodness, that sounds exciting. And of course, the reality is what we want to do is plot a course somewhere in the middle, because the metaverse can be everything from augmented and virtual reality, the XR combination, the use of robotics and other technology. And we're at that infancy where I think the beauty, based on how much extra collaboration that's happened the last couple of years, is we really need to make sure that we shape the future metaverse, the digital experiences and worlds that can be immersive around what young people need and want. And I was reminded recently that actually our students that are just starting out in their secondary education, before we know it, they'll probably be the main creators of the content and the resources that are within the metaverse for the next student cohort. So I'm really interested to hear perspectives from, we have speakers from the US, from the UAE, just their ideas from different aspects about how we can look at ways where we can offer impactful use of new technology, how opportunities are changing. And something that we also need to be really mindful of is making sure that we're always thinking about safe spaces, resources that are age appropriate, child friendly and managed, because there are, those concerns about resources and how we make sure that we've got the right underpinning rules around them.
No, you talk about the metaverse then. I've just quickly Googled it. I couldn't remember the exact quote, but it reminded me of that thing from the introduction in Ready Player One, where the main character, Parzival, say people come to the Oasis, and that's the world in Ready Player One. They come to the Oasis for all the things they can do, but they stay for all the things that they can be. And I think that's the really exciting thing about it, isn't it? It's that real untapped potential, but it's so alluring, isn't it? That the potential for what's there, and like I say, there's a real potential of it being absolutely fantastic, isn't there? So there's an
amazing potential. There's an amazing potential, and actually, it was touched on as well, and it ties in that segue into STEM. There's some really interesting new products around robotics, which some might think sits within the metaverse umbrella or as a separate strand. But you know what? When it comes down to it, for me, it's really looking at the evolution of technology and where those potentials lie. And then it's about how do we shape it so that it's as inclusive as possible, and it's shaped and molded by the widest possible set of voices. So exciting times. I can guarantee you I will be the least informed person on the panel, which is why I'm chairing it. But I will be asking questions and scribbling notes throughout, and I'm really looking forward to it. And that's on the Thursday. So
brilliant
there's
stuff.
2 out of 270 odd sessions that you can put on the list.
Yeah, something to definitely check out. And I'd probably be that person like you. I'd be there like Googling things like I just was a second ago just to get the exact quote. But no, thanks for that, Al. And I understand, because I've got a copy, not too far over here actually. There's a new book out. Might there be some conversations about a certain? I'll just do a little flyby. A conversation about something like this. I mean, your Secret EdTech Diary is hugely popular as well, and your My School Governance Handbook is proving to be just as insightful. Will you be offering some copies of that or sharing anything around that while you're over there?
I'm sure there'll be a few conversations around it. I mean, the funny thing is, when we think in different regions, the word governance sometimes means different things, but at its heart, there's common values, common challenge and oversight, that critical friend. Wherever we are in the world, there's more and more need to have that oversight of delivering safe and secure education systems. And I actually think it's a natural segue for me. Talking originally from an EdTech perspective about opportunities, lessons learned, next steps forward and how we track. Well, just widen the picture, widen the lens from EdTech to the school as a whole, and governance sits there, whether we're worrying about some of the new pressures, which is staff retention, digital privacy, child safety, funding, finance, capacity, and of course, the role of digital as we reshape and reform to try and continue to evolve education that's fit for the 21st century and relevant to our learners and the workplace that they're going to be going into. So for me, it was a case of, look, the recipe is keep it simple, chat about it as if we're having a cup of coffee, talk about those key issues. And if it sparks conversation, if it helps encourage more people from whatever profession to feel comfortable to roll up their sleeves and get involved in education and support our amazing education systems wherever they are in the world, it's got to be a good thing to me.
Sounds good to me. So EdTech, what are you looking forward to sort of seeing yourself at the show, Al?
Oh, it's a very good question.
I know you like a product or two or a bit of hardware. Anything in particular you're looking to sort of find out more about?
Well, I mean, generally, I'm interested in learning first and foremost more about the potential for how we're evolving. And I don't tend to use the metaverse term quite so often, but the role of augmented and virtual reality, some products have developed at quite a pace, but I think there's more to learn. I'm interested in how technology is supporting in lots of different ways, personalized learning journeys, but also staff collaboration. I'm always interested to see solutions that genuinely have that kind of underlying support for well-being and SEMH for our learners. The truth of it is, I walk around very much that candy shop style, which is I just want to learn and see what other people are doing. I think there's so many different strands. You know, we often think about education, about actually the hardest challenges. There are so many choices. It would be easier in a way if there were less choices, but also we're so blessed there are so many choices, because at the heart of it, it's all about innovation. So I like to wander around early in the morning. As an exhibitor, I'll get in before the halls open. I'll walk around, look at other stands, get ideas of products and technologies, then go back and meet people and learn a bit more. And often through talking about my experiences and the things that I can share in that conversation, I'll learn loads back the other way. So a bit like your good self, I'm a people person. So I love just meeting up with people that I've either haven't seen for a couple of years or have connected to digitally. And it's great to meet face to face and just chew the fat.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things with what we're both very fortunate to be able to do. You know, any school I visit, you know, sure, they'll learn things from me, but I feel often far more enriched in terms of the things that I've received and the things I've actually given. It's definitely a real symbiotic sort of thing. So it's nice that you've highlighted that. I'm mindful of time, keeping to the time, Mr. Kingsley. We are a little bit over. So if it's okay with you, I'm keen to get on our next guest, who I did spot was wildly waving around something. So as if with the power of some sort of magic, I'm going to take this, I'm going to throw it over there, and let's see what happens now when Ollie Lewis comes on. Has it landed, Ollie? Look
There
at
you go.
that.
I tell you, that is quality special effects.
Magic.
Jump cuts for the win there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolute winner. And in a world of check it out, go and check it out. Fantastic read.
Thank you. And who wouldn't want a book with that handsome devil on the cover?
Just chatting.
Welcome to the show, Ollie. How are you doing?
Thanks for inviting me. Very well, thank you. You know, in the depths of term one, thoroughly enjoying all the work at TDET around digital strategy, working with all the different stakeholders across the trust, from teachers through to principals and governors, you name it. It's great. Absolutely loving it. Thank you. And although you gave me a bit of grief today when we spoke on the phone earlier, Mr. Anderson, thoroughly loving wearing a scarf for the first time in, well, probably 4.5 years. Is a little bit brisk up here in the Fens.
What seems fair?
Sorry, Al. For those who don't know you, Ollie, why would wearing a scarf in the Fens be something different for you? Could you share a little bit about why that would be? Because I think it'd be a nice little segue into understanding why you're here on the show this evening.
Absolutely. So I've spent the last 4 years working in an international school in Abu Dhabi. And 4 years in the GCC is quite warm. And obviously I was there during the pandemic, so the ability to travel at certain times was relatively limited. But what that did mean, it provided an opportunity to work with various people in the GCC and others back here at home in the UK, such as yourself, Mr. Anderson, to give a bit of a bridge in the education space to allow people to share. But also I entered into the GESS Awards in, I think, 2019 for Best Use of Digital Learning, and amazingly walked away with this one for the implementation of Century Tech at the British International School of Abu Dhabi. And then last year at the awards, walked away with half of this. And I say half of this because the other half actually belongs to one of the hosts on the show, Mr. Anderson, for an initiative that GESS deemed was inspiring enough for us to pick up an award for just providing a platform to continue the educational discourse, which was through Learn Life UAE. So 4 years, one school, loads of amazing experiences, 2 GESS Awards, now sit on the GESS judging panel, and now I find myself back in the UK, a little bit closer to Al in the Fens, enjoying the cooler climate.
We have the luxury now of being able to, the main topic of conversation is which day we're going to meet up for a curry, which is slightly different to how it's been the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I was going to say with you, Ollie, obviously, you know, you've spent 4 years across in Abu Dhabi, and then the first time we get you on the Check It Out show afterwards, we want to talk about back in the UAE. So kind of full circle for you. You've obviously been super successful with your submissions at GESS, and rightly so. Credit to both of you on the most recent one. I'm interested. I'm sure we'll pick your brains on some of the things that you think are best about GESS. But now that you've done judging at GESS, would you like to share a flavour of where you see the kind of the strengths and the innovation and the new things that are coming across the table?
I think for context, what's really interesting about the UAE is it's got such a competitive education space. And what that breeds is it breeds schools that have their own unique USPs. And where that sits digitally is it means that the hotbed of innovation in the GCC, some schools really drive change around coding, for example. Others really drive change around STEAM in the classroom. Others really want to drive, assessment products. And to see that on the judging side is incredible, because it gives you that direct window into the impact that it's had in the classroom. And fundamentally, everybody's main goal in education is to improve outcomes for students. So on the judging end, it's been awesome to actually see what some of those products have managed to enhance around teaching and learning to support outcomes for students. I can't give too much away, and I won't sort of name products, but because that would be unfair with the awards next week. But that kind of direct window into seeing the difference that these products, services, tools, whatever label you want to give, is having on learning in the classroom has been incredible. What I think is really important afterwards is if you do see a product that wins, or even if it doesn't win, it's worth investing the time and asking, that school, the person that's led that challenge, drive in a particular organisation, to ask them about their lessons learned, what worked, what didn't work. The UAE and the GCC as a whole are really open and honest. I think if you start the conversation, people will give you the time of day and say, look, this is what worked really well. This didn't work very well. If I were to do it again, I would do X, Y, and Z. And you don't always find that, from my experience, in other places across the world. And I think that kind of discourse and honesty is really, it's great to be a part of. Yes, some people might say, well, the GCC drives innovation just because budgets are a bit higher, because they're more competitive. They want to be able to be seen to drive change. But equally, the appetite is there, an appetite not just for being different and doing different and finding better ways of working, but sharing what is working in their schools. And I think when you couple that open and honest kind of action of people and schools with the USPs that are knocking around in some of the schools, it helps drive you towards a particular way of working for your context as to what might be the best solution and why. And I think that's a real strength, not just of the region, but also of being a part of the judging. I get a behind the scenes view of some of that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for those insights, Ollie. I won't dive deeper into any of the sort of pros or names or anything like that. It definitely is, though, a really worthwhile experience. That's one of the benefits I found, both now working on, as I do, with Al directly at Net Support, but also judging. I've been involved in judging the BET Awards, for example, before. And the thing, sometimes educational technology can have a bit of a bad name, can't it? Yeah, in the education space. But actually, when you see the passion coming from the companies themselves to drive change, to make a difference, to have an impact, you actually realise that the visions of the companies don't actually, because most teachers get into teaching to make a difference and to help people and all those sort of things. And you could be mistakenly thinking that the people in educational technology or providing services into education might be doing so just for the money, but actually there's often a lot more commonality between those educational technology providers and the educators themselves, isn't there? Is that what you found?
Yeah, and it's the thing that really struck me about GESS is obviously, whilst I was working out there, I had some relationships with some companies, but it was never what's next from a what can I sell you perspective. It was always just come and talk to me. It was relationship building and foundational building, and you could have that like, this is my problem, what do you think? And they'd go, well, if you go and see this person from that company, they might be able to direct you in the right place. And I haven't experienced that per se anywhere else so far. It's always built on that kind of relationship, which I found really refreshing, because as we've seen a few colleagues on various social media platforms post, including Al, recently, it's the amount of emails you get, cold calling style emails, has certainly increased recently. But all of the emails that I used to get in the Middle East was let's go for a coffee and have a chat. It was never about, I want to sell you this. It was always, tell me a bit about yourself, tell me about your journey, what you're interested in beforehand, receiving any of that kind of, all right, what's next? And I really like that. I think that it went to show that it was more than just a transactional process between the vendor and the schools. And I think that is quite important. If you start on that foundation of a solid relationship, then you've got a better chance of success ultimately. And as both of you have shared many a times in various different platforms, it's not about the kind of drive-by hit and done. It's about that continual, consistent, ongoing relationship that actually ultimately leads to the best outcomes for everybody.
It's how the best vendors actually learn to refine and improve their products. If you just sell and walk, you never learn where you can improve. But it's a shame in a way that you have to state the obvious, really. But it's good to hear from your perspective that at least some vendors are very much more focused on let's build the relationship.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important. And when you look at the breadth and depth of not only vendors but speakers and what's going on at the conference, it's important to not lose sight of those relationships and just take the time to go and continue that dialogue with those people. So I think that's that can be the challenge, like you identified earlier. There's so much to do. How do you fit it all in? But you've got to pay homage to the relationships, I think.
So what are your favourite topics at the moment, Ollie? What would be your top tips if people were heading to GESS? There's going to be all these different speaker sessions, all these different topics. Are there any topics that you think are worthy of people's focus at the moment? Ones that are going to be the kind of the future lead, or just stuff that interests you at the moment? I
think your panel discussion that you're chairing would be a really interesting one to go to. I'm not just saying that because it's you, Al. I'm saying that because there's a lot of unknown around kind of Web3 and where it might go. And I think, given the scale of pace of change that can happen in the GCC, it's a good testing bed to see how they adopt it, what they learn from it, and how the rest of us might be able to actually then learn from that and translate that to our context. Areas that I'm quite interested in at the moment, I've certainly enjoyed reading a lot of the entries around best use of STEAM in the classroom, but that just sort of sits in not in my comfort zone, but my sphere of influence, experience. As a scientist and physics teacher, I'm always interested in what's going on there, and there's so many awesome things in the GCC region around STEAM that's always kind of been a passion of mine, I guess, sort of sitting in the background. But I think probably what's most pertinent is actually going to be a lot of the stuff around digital strategy, because you hear a lot of schools around the world have kind of not really continued with the momentum around their digital strategy post-pandemic. So actually, I think now's a good time. We're about a year later. What are those schools in the GCC region doing around digital? What can we take from that? What can we learn from that? Because, you've got to be consistent with it and keep it on the agenda at all times to really get the most out of it. So I'd be keen to kind of go to the sessions around digital strategy, and then underpinning that, what does that look like? Where does wellbeing sit into that? Where does digital governance sit into that? Where does assessment fit into that? Okay, we're kind of 2-3 years down the line now of having some consistent platforms, we should now really be getting some data that we can say is not only tangible, but we can pin success to that. So I'd be looking to hear and see talks around those kind of elements.
Absolutely. I think evidence is the key, isn't it? If you can see impact, Mark and I always write about different topics around Digstrat in the context that actually the sooner you can find ways to measure impact and you can see it's having a benefit, it actually also gives you the extra boost in terms of developing your digital strategy further, because you're building on those solid foundations. And I think sometimes that's why it's better to do a few things well, build confidence, build evidence, and then you can move on, than it is to try and chuck too many things out of the toolbox all at once.
Yeah, and that's what will be really interesting to see, because 2-3 years ago, everyone threw everything and the kitchen sink at it. And now people have started to pare that back. So now it'll be interesting to see the directions people have gone. But sorry, Mark, I interjected with you there.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I mean, it links into a bit of a faux pas that I made back quite a few years ago now when I was doing a keynote at the GESS school about not building your house on sandy land. And so, but it does sort of sit quite nicely with what you were saying there, Al. If you throw the kitchen sink at it, if you try and do everything, and trying to be a jack of all trades, then it's likely that you haven't got those strong foundations to build upon to make everything work. So, yeah, no, it's great advice all round. I'm really mindful of time, Ollie. I'm really sorry, but thank you ever so much for your insights and for sharing. And good luck to all of those people, those finalists in the GESS Awards, being the event that it absolutely is. Just getting to the finalist stage actually is an accolade in and of itself. So best of luck to everybody who has been shortlisted, and there's a broad bunch of categories, not just of people who sell into education, but of educators as well, which is another nice feature of the GESS Awards, I think, which should be championed as well, because it's a broad cross spectrum, isn't it? It's championing not just the exhibitors and the vendors, but it's also championing those educators making a difference in the region as well. So, yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. Thanks for your time tonight, Ollie. Thank you.
See you later, gents. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Cheers. Ta-ra. Right now, Mr. Kingsley.
Too much exciting stuff to talk, and I can see we've got our next guest who, without giving away the name of the organisation, we're going to struggle to squeeze into 10 minutes because he's got somewhere like 8 billion ideas. See that segue there?
Yeah, very good, very good. Welcome to the Check It Out show, and thank you for waiting so patiently as well. Welcome to David Harkin. Welcome, David.
Good evening, gents. How are we?
We are doing very well, thank you. Good to see you, sir.
Lovely to see you here. Thank you very much for the invite. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be good fun.
It's always fun. But yeah, it's also nice when you get loads of like-minded people together in a space and get a few days to hang out and share different ideas.
You too. It's definitely one of my favourite conferences, I think. It's definitely one of the best on the circuit. So it's always fresh, different, lots of people, and you just get lots of people from different parts of the world in one place. Maybe its location is definitely a benefit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Dave, you've got a stand in the UK pavilion.
We have.
If somebody wanders past and bumps into 8 billion ideas, what kind of things are they going to discover with your team there at the show?
So hopefully some friendly faces is what they should be. They should be doing. But no, we're lucky. I'm speaking on the Wednesday about the future. Well, how I feel the webcam can be education's best friend for the next few decades, and then a couple of panel discussions on the Thursday, which should be good fun. But I'm lucky to have some of my team out there. So I've got Sam, Carl, Ben, Joe. They're going to be friendly, happy faces from 8 billion ideas over the 3 days on the stall. So I imagine most of the conversations will be, what do you do? What's all this work? Because we're lucky that we're lucky we've got a name which kind of sticks out, which people kind of have heard of, and they get some curious questions going, which is really helpful. And then you kind of get into the reality of what do we do with schools on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully they can be explaining that. So our big focuses have always been in entrepreneurship, career education, skills for the future, and performance and well-being. So that extra curriculum stuff, which is becoming even more critical going forward for lots of different reasons. And I think being a B2B company, so directly working with schools, our scope of works are so different in every school. Every school is different. So I'm sure we'll be using the time to explain about what we do and then just build new relationships.
And if people aren't too sure about what it is you actually do, David, what do you actually do? I mean, surely you can't sit there with 8 billion ideas, no?
No, we don't. Yeah, no. So our mission as a business is about giving every student on the planet the skills and belief to go change the world. So we've never met a child who doesn't have an amazing imagination, but every child is on a different journey with the amount of skills and indeed belief that they've got. And I mean, you can see nearly see the mission statement behind me, but I love it because it means the word every. We've never wanted to get pigeonholed into one part of the sector, which means we work with 4 to 18-year-olds. We work in international schools, academies, independent schools, grammar schools, young offenders, colleges. We work with students all across the world, which is wicked, of all different age groups. So that's the every bit. When it comes to skills, we're teaching using tech and our platform, but teaching entrepreneurship, career education, skills of the future, mainly creativity and problem solving, and performance and well-being. So that was a relationship we kicked off with Sir Clyde Woodward earlier this year. And I guess the belief is the way that we do it as well. So we try and be high energy, engaging, and be very relatable to students. So they're the areas. How we actually do it is we have our 8 Billion Ideas platform, and students can access live experiences, courses, our mentors through the platform. And what we're seeing is a really interesting trend and change is that, like on a Thursday morning, students are going to history, 8 billion ideas in chemistry, but the 8 billion ideas lesson is using the power of the webcam and using our tech into the classroom. And that's the big shift and change that we've seen for us. So we're being integrated in timetable and just being used in a different way. Hopefully that makes sense.
It did. I mean, the most important answer is go along and have a chat with them.
That's the way
to find out more. Yeah. So obviously you're a fan of GESS. Are there any particular areas that you're interested in on a personal level to unpick further next week?
Yeah, I think education and tech's in a really interesting place. I think it's a really exciting time to be in education. So I'm interested in the mood. Is one thing. Is the mood of the delegates. You know, as you've seen GESS over the years, you know, pre-COVID, high energy, and then it's kind of building back up in pace. I'm also interested in people's kind of new definition of innovation in education, and I think that's been challenged a little bit in a good way. I think EdTech, in a way, has sometimes been feared wrongly by the sector and not always embraced. I think that's changed now. But I also think the definition of EdTech, I think there's different ways and there's different segmentations, and it'd be interesting to see if that's a topic of discussion. So what I mean by that is that it's not just the breakthrough tech, right? And maybe the gadgets and the hard stuff that you can physically see in the kind of robot sides, which is kind of one side of it. It's actually the use of the webcam, use of some things which have been around for a few decades, and being more, being more optimistic about their role in education going forward. So I'll be interested to see if that comes up in any of the panel conversations next week.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it, Mark? I mean, often I know when you go and provide guidance in CPD, sometimes when people say, what's the next step in your digital strategy? It's not going and getting more of anything. It's getting more out of what you've already got.
Yeah, you look at, I mean, I think a lot of people think, like, you saw the rise of the iPad, obviously, in the last 15 years. And it's something physically you can touch, right? You can hit it. Well, not hit it, but it makes a sound. It's hard. And sometimes it is about using more about what's around you. I mean, I'm just fascinated about, to me, the webcam and the way it can be integrated in classrooms and how it can be used literally means children are no longer limited by zip code or postcodes to some opportunity. And I think some of the things for us was when I was when lockdown kicked in, we did a course called Home Hack, where students were creating inventions to solve problems at home. And it was amazing, the engagement we were getting. We were watching our NPS score, and we were asking students every 30 minutes to rate what was going on. And we realized to stop writing lessons and start writing scripts. So that was one thing that we learned, to make sure that actually we were competing against YouTube and Netflix, right? That was our new competition, about the attention of a child through the screen. Then you saw, well, obviously we all watched the rise of Joe Wicks and what was happening at that time. And I was doing the equation and just thinking, hang on, this guy is, done 4 million students have tuned in for the lessons. That's actually the equivalent of, it would cost about £2.5 million to have 4 million children go through a 30 minutes PE lesson live. And in fact, you've got someone using tech in a different way, arguably still having a big impact to the students, maybe not the same as in a class, in a playground, but still there was something there which was really beneficial. And then I had a friend of mine jump on a team meeting, and I was looking for different ways of inspiring the team. And basically, my big idea was go down the phone book and look who was inspirational on my phone and say, come on and talk to the team. And one of my friends is a car designer at Tesla now, a guy called Ian Kettle we used to go to school with. And he always wanted to be a car designer. And he's gone on now, and he's one of the top 10 in the world. And he works for Elon Musk, which is interesting. It could be a controversial topic. I'll stay away from that. But the point was, he came on and told his story to my team, and everybody kind of like jaws dropped and was like, this is wicked. And I kept on thinking, Ian, I'm really proud of you. But any child across the planet who's interested in car design and engineering and wants to hear a story of resilience, that was just amazing. But you're in LA and you can't go out and spend every day in schools. But if we use the camera properly and we integrate it into schools and it's not feared, it's not replacing, then maybe there's a way here that we could get speakers and different kind of content in timetable. It doesn't have to be an offering after school or kids logging in. It can actually be part of a child's life. So that's why I think just the basics of let's understand this thing, which has been kind of in most classrooms for a few years, and how can we get more out of it? It's been a little bit more open-minded.
No, absolutely. As I always say, it isn't so much what you do, it's the way that you do it, isn't it? So, and that's what gets results. So, no, brilliant stuff. Thank you for sharing all that, David. Where will people find you at the pavilion? What's your stand number? Where can they find you? And when are you speaking? I
believe our stand mark is E33, if I'm right, and it's over there. No, we're really looking forward to it, having our stand. It's often we've been lucky enough to speak at events, but this time we've gone and got the stand to have those kind of conversations. So come and see the 8 Build team. We'll be there, and they'll be smiling, they'll be energetic, and ready to tell about what we're doing with students all over the world. And we're seeing a big rise in the Middle East. I know the last speaker was talking about the open-mindedness to partnerships and relationships, and we're definitely seeing that. You've got to go build those relationships first.
Final question I'm going to have to ask you before we let you go. Tell us about the ripple effect, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much, Al. Well done. This is a bit of a book plugging evening, but yeah, no, I'm really proud of it. I did a TEDx talk a number of years ago and got off the stage, and someone asked me, where's your book? And I said, look, never really thought about writing a book. I'm a proud dyslexic historian graduate. Writing a book wasn't really on the cards, but I kind of looked at a few of the patterns of the things that I did write about, like some of the blogs and the keynotes, and I could see a trend there. And a lot about mindset. So I've kind of gone on this journey from being an entrepreneur in the world of tech, working for IBM, to becoming an entrepreneur running a business, and just learned a few things along the way. So I decided to create the book, which was about the ripple effect, how surprisingly small changes in mindset can make big things happen, and just some sensible tips for the self-improver out there. And it's been lucky enough to have some great endorsement. Dame Alison Peacock was first to do it, but also from the world of business as well as education, which has been great. So yeah, do check it out. And if you've read it, then please let us know. Hopefully you've had a good experience. It's been great to have some great feedback so far.
It's had some cracking reviews, and well done to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Cheers, gents. I look forward to seeing you both next week.
You'll be seeing one of us next week.
You're not there, Mark. Soon.
Yeah, it's all good. But please do obviously get involved and follow 8 Billion Ideas. But kudos to you as well, David, for all the things you get involved in beyond 8 Billion Ideas as well, with your work at the Fed and everything else as well. It's great to see people like yourself actually getting involved and really sort of pinning your values to the mast about education. So
we just need an evolution. We do not need a revolution. There is so much good stuff going on in this sector, but we've got to sometimes just got to celebrate a little bit more be a little bit more prouder as well. I think as well, you know, we do a lot of good stuff. We always like to pick on the bad stuff or focus on all the issues. So we should be a little bit more prouder and share a lot more. I think all the problems in education can be solved if we listen a little bit better. So that would be my mic drop moment. But it's all good fun.
Absolutely.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thanks so much for coming on and joining us this evening, David. Lovely. And I hope you have a very safe and successful trip. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening, gents. Thank you for the invite.
Take care, sir.
Take care. Thank you. Fantastic. I need to get myself a copy of that book as well. Have you got a copy yet?
I actually have got a copy, but I can't claim to have read it yet. But I have a bit of a guilty thing, which is I've got quite a lot of books that I need to read. So I need some more flights to get the time to actually sit and read stuff. That's my precious
it just
reading
so happens
time.
You've got a 6.5-hour flight coming up very soon.
Indeedy. Shall we talk to our next guest?
Yes, who's on next, Al?
We have Ross joining us from Practice Pal Music.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Good to see you, sir.
Welcome. Is that an instrument behind you? We talk about music. Is that an instrument behind you by any chance?
It is indeed. So what would you guess it is?
Glockenspiel.
See, everyone says glockenspiel. You couldn't really be more wrong, I'm afraid. No, there's
that's a harsh assessment. We could have softened it slightly.
It might be a church organ, actually.
Okay, so glockenspiels. I've got a bone to pick with basically most schooling of percussion instruments. Anything that is kind of vaguely sort of rectangular shaped and you hit gets called a glockenspiel. And actually, there's so many different variations in the word percussion of what these are. And this is actually a glockenspiel. It's a very high pitched instrument and it's metallic rather than wood. This is a marimba, so much lower range instrument. So it goes down to the same note as a cello, and much more sustained. You play it with soft sticks. It's very soft sound. So, in fact, you can hear it. Here you go. Have a listen.
Wow.
There you go. I thought it was an organ, Al, myself. I thought it was sort of tubes of an organ. See,
I'm just glad I didn't say harmonica now. I'd have looked all right, Wally.
No, those resonators. Yeah, that's actually where all the note kind of comes from. If you're interested in geeky and nerdy, you can look up something called Helmholtz resonation, which is the same kind of resonation as you get when you blow across the top of a glass bottle, something like that, where you're agitating something on an opening, but it's actually the length of the vessel which defines the pitch.
Well, welcome to this evening's episode of Learning Music with Mark and Al.
Exactly, yeah.
Every day's a learning day, though. That's really fascinating. Thank you, Ross. Could you share a little bit about why you're here? Practice Pal Music what's that all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in music, as you might have guessed. So I studied first at the Royal Northern College of Music, 4 years there, and then I came to the Royal Academy of Music in London, 2-year postgrad. Graduated with distinction in 2009, I think. And then I was sort of launched into the wild west of trying to earn a living as a musician, which is rather an interesting thing. And I discovered that in order to kind of fund the addiction to performance, you have to do some teaching. So I at the same time as I was playing with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, Royal Ballet Sinfonia, especially as a freelancer. But actually, in order to kind of have some stable income, you have to teach. So I started teaching at Newham Academy of Music. So really poor area, a music service that actually in my time, just by the skin of its teeth, managed to avoid going bust. And then around about the same time, I was appointed by Trinity College London to roll out the new rock and pop syllabus internationally. So my first day of examining was Singapore, then on to Malaysia, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, then into India and Sri Lanka, loads and loads of places, kind of all the places you'd expect, plus some you might not have imagined. So things like Maldives, that's quite a nice place to go and do some music examining. Anyway, what became really clear as I was teaching back in the UK, as I was visiting all of these different schools across the world, was that music education is broken, and it's not just broken in the UK. The same issues that are being faced in the UK are the same ones that are there for everyone around the whole world. And so actually, as the pressures and the questioning around the value of music education increases, those pressures around how you timetable, how you administer, what you can afford in terms of who you're going to employ into your music department to coordinate and communicate with the parents, all of those things, it's getting more and more tricky to run a music department. It's getting more and more tricky to learn, especially as music has kind of almost been put into this category of for just for fun. It's just something you do for fun, and therefore it's like playing. It shouldn't be something that's active or something you work at. It's not. We've lost the idea of it being a discipline, an artistic mastery. Anyway, so this is kind of what you've got going on in the big picture, and then the question was, well, is anyone going to do anything about this and try and support music education and enable it to flourish and thrive? So that's what we've done. We've created a modern music education platform, which is for budding musicians and for everyone who supports them. So through our app-based approach to learning and administering music, it means that actually the schools, teachers, parents, and students, they have a completely new way to move through music education together, which reduces the burden and cost of administration, increases the automated communication that goes on and engagement, and gives students a way to flourish and excel through access to the kind of resources from their teacher at home, but also, should they need it, guided practice from our expert mentors. There's your very long answer to what Practice Pal is all about.
Sounds pretty comprehensive to me. So I suppose the natural follow-on for it, which is, and thank you for sharing, because I think there's lots of subjects where we need to revisit the way that we deliver a curriculum and a method that our young learners engage with, across quite a large part of the syllabus in many areas. But I'm interested, with our theme being about next week and trips to Dubai. What's your experience? Is GESS new for you? Been before? What are you looking forward to most? Anything planned?
Yeah, GESS is absolutely new to me, and I'm looking forward to finding out what it's all about. Dubai, I've been once before examining, and I loved it, and I'm looking forward to being back, and I'm going to check out some of the same places that we went to, plus go up the Burj Khalifa, which I didn't go up last time I was in Dubai, so I'm looking forward to that. One thing I'm really looking forward to is being asked to speak on the missing myelination link at GESS Dubai. So all about how the brain learns, and so basically in a kind of a summary of what that's going to be is just quite simply, we've been teaching all the wrong things in schools. So actually we need to learn how to teach the right things, and the right things are the things that increase our ability to learn rather than increase the amount of knowledge we've consumed or stored. So nothing major in terms of changes, just complete shift of the priorities in education.
Take it yours is an 8-hour session you're delivering?
Is that one of those longer hands-on workshops that Sarah was mentioning?
No, I think this is all done and dusted in 20 minutes of, it's a thrilling ride through the story of your brain, and in particular the corpus callosum, and a process that goes on in your corpus callosum called myelination, and how that is actually the main driver in what increases your ability to learn.
See, Al, I should be going over so I can just listen to Ross, I think. Big fan of cognitive science, you see, right here, Ross. That sounds really, really interesting. Thank you. Yeah. Jumping into your product again for a second, if I may. So I'm just trying to unpick it in my head. So I've got friends who are peripatetic music teachers. I've got a 13-year-old son who's doing his grade 3 drumming at the moment.
Yeah.
How does practice pile music sort of fit into that sort of more traditional sort of scenario where a child will be in school and receive that instruction and supported by a music teacher? How does practice pile music sort of fit in with all of that?
Yeah. So that's like what we're all about. That's our raison d'etre, so what it means is, for your music teacher, you might not know this, but for per day of lessons that they're trying to schedule, that's normally going to take them between half an hour and an hour to work around academic restrictions that are there in terms of, actually in year 8 you're not allowed to miss English, maths or science, for example, or you can't have it during off-site games. Then you've got ad hoc restrictions, which are things like school trips, spelling tests, exams, mock exams, whatever it is, an author visit. You've also then, they need to be rotating their lessons throughout the day so that they're having an even spread for your child of which subject they're missing. So actually, to do that for all of your students who have different timetables, different restrictions, different ad hoc restrictions, it's incredibly time consuming. I first started trying to code this into spreadsheets, and then I quickly realized this is ridiculous. Got in touch with a friend of mine who's top of his class computer science grad from Cambridge, who's now our CTO, and said, look, let's sort this out, because this is crazy. Anyway, so we've kind of taken that down from your half an hour to an hour. It can be a day of teaching now takes about 30 seconds with our platform. So massive time saving for your teacher, more time for him to actually spend teaching. Then for your child, actually, when they're practicing at home, they can just open up their app, open Practice Pal. It's got the notes from their lessons, all their previous lessons. Any scribbles on manuscript or something like that, your teacher can snap a photo. Anything where they want to give a demonstration clip. So as a teacher, I was always reteaching the same things, the same rhythm every week. No, this is how it went. You've now forgotten how it went and you practiced it incorrectly. It's really hard to get back. That doesn't have to happen anymore, because your child would have access to a video clip. And one of the really cool things for you as a parent is actually in real time at the end of the lesson, you're going to get a summary of this. So you're going to get some notes. You might even get a little video clip of your child, what they've learned in their lesson. It's great. It's really enjoyable to have. And then there's kind of aspects which benefit the school as well. So things like, actually for your child, if they're allowed a device in school, they get a notification which reminds them to go along to their music lesson. It says your music lesson is in 5 minutes. But the way that we integrate with the MIS system in a school means that we can keep academic teachers informed about what's going on. As I've kind of alluded to earlier, we can reduce the impact on spread the load of which lessons are being missed. And we can also give a music department oversight over what's going on, because it's, often it's a school within a school being run by one person. So you'll have 15 teachers within this music school who are teaching between them, 200 to 300 lessons a week. And that's being organized by and overseen by one person. They just don't have the tools to do that. And so that's where Practice Pal Music comes in, because they can actually see everything that they need to in one place, dip into any student, any teacher's calendar.
Well, that sounds fantastic, Ross. I'm a huge fan of the arts and the importance of it within the curriculum. Al, I'm sure values in a broad and balanced curriculum. There's been a real narrowing of that in recent times from certain areas in government, shall we say. So it's lovely to see a solution which aims to make that more accessible, free up some time and make it a bit more palatable, for want of a better word, to actually administer and organise. So brilliant. Thanks for sharing that with us, Ross.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add, Al?
I was going to ask, probably the most important question I really should ask is, can you remember your stand number?
I was trying to look that up. Just as I can, I've got it written down. Here it is. So I think we are in the startup pavilion, SZ14, I believe.
SZ14, and sounds like the startup pavilion is one of the places to go. Lots of great new solutions there. So look forward to seeing you there, sir. And safe travels.
Excellent.
Brilliant
Thanks
stuff.
very much. You too.
If you want to find out more, then Practice Palmers on Twitter or practicepalmusic.com. Great stuff. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you. Great
Cheers.
chat.
Take care.
Bye.
Cheers. Take
Bye.
care. Thanks. That sounds really useful, doesn't it?
It does. And it's the last time I'm going to mention a glockenspiel to any answer that's raised with me in a general knowledge quiz.
Brilliant. Well, listen, our next guest is actually in Dubai right now. So I had the great fortune of having the chance to do a little bit of a pre-recording, given that it's actually about 25 minutes past midnight in Dubai right now. Save him staying up late and with a jet lag and everything else as well. Here is Matt Jones from NetSupport talking about Classroom.cloud. So, hi, welcome. And because he's going to be in Dubai, we're recording this before the Check It Out show, but really pleased to welcome onto the Check It Out show, Matt Jones from NetSupport. Hi, Matt, how are you doing?
Hi, Mark. I'm very well, thank you very much. So, yeah, just getting ready to fly out to the UAE next week.
That's right, yeah. So it's 4 hours ahead. So we're out live 7 till 8:30, and so that's quite late o'clock for you over in Dubai.
It would have been, wouldn't it? I was up for it though. To be fair, I was going to find a great sort of view of the Burj Khalifa in the background and do it, but they'd probably have the lights off at that time of night, wouldn't they? So yeah, it's probably easier to do it now.
Virtual backgrounds and that, man. We could have got you that running
could have done that
for the recording, couldn't we? Look, so NetSupport have been at GESS quite a few times. What's it like there?
To be honest, GESS is very similar in my head to what you see at Bet Show. It's very much focused around IT and IT solutions. A lot of the vendors that we see, a lot of these international shows will be there. It's quite a large event. It's not as big as Bet, but there's about 250 exhibitors. The audience is typically teachers, school owners. Lots of international schools attend. There's a full sort of conference program as well, which I know Al's speaking at, I think, twice during the week as well while we're there. But yeah, it's a great event, and it's a good chance for us to meet some of our customers in the Middle East, in the Emirates, and also to sort of talk to people about our new solutions that we've got quite a few of at the moment.
That's really interesting. So speaking of solutions then, Matt, what can people expect to find from NetSupport at the GESS show?
Well, we will be focusing on Classroom.cloud, which is our fairly new solution. It's been around for 2 years now, but it's growing and evolving by the week. We've got lots of updates coming and lots of updates since we were last at GESS show. So we'll be showing that, which is cloud-based, safeguarding, classroom management and technicians tools, as well as our suite of asset management products, NetSupport DNA, NetSupport School, Classroom Management, NetSupport Notify. So we'll have our full range of products that we can demo to people who come and see us. And we'll have some mugs. I'm going to take some of our freebies with us. So I'm going to be there on the plane with probably 200 or 300 mugs as well. So logistically, I'm not sure how I'm going to manage that, but we'll get them there somehow. So I don't want to bring them back. So come and see us. We've also got a couple of, guests on our stand as well. We've got Simon from Pobble, John from Salamander. They're going to be using our stand as a base as well. So if you want to see them, sort of swing by the NetSupport stand as well.
Brilliant stuff. I'd say Simon's involved in a Teach Meet and all sorts as well. So, please do come along to that. And whereabouts in the auditorium will you find the NetSupport
We
stand?
are on stand Q20, which is in the UK pavilion. So it's in the BISA area of the stand. I think as you come in the doors, it will be over towards the right-hand side, but quite a large area with lots of other UK exhibitors as well. We've got quite a large stand. Hopefully we should stand out. So stand Q20 is where
Brilliant
you'll find
stuff.
us.
And as a fellow coffee aficionado, I can definitely say that those coffee cups you share,
these mugs they're great, aren't they?
They are worth the trip to the stand alone. They are brilliant, really good. One of the problems I find with those sort of travel mugs is that you can't get a good sip, but you can get a good glug off of those cups. So please do go and get one and say hello to Matt and the team at the same time. Lots of great solutions there, obviously, to learn about and think about for your setting. If I was thinking about attending GESS, hadn't been before, Matt, what sorts of things are there beyond the vendors for people to sort of see and get engaged with?
There's lots of sort of speaking sessions. There's a full program. There's probably, I think, at least 2 or 3 streams running every day, all day, there as well. So Al's talking about digital strategy. I know he's also sort of chairing a session on, I think it's the metaverse, which will be quite an interesting one. I might try and get along to that myself. But yeah, there's lots of interesting sort of talks, sessions going along, as well as lots of exhibitors there to sort of sit down and see what the new technologies, new ideas they've got as well. So it's definitely worth attending.
Brilliant stuff. Well, listen, thanks for your time, Matt, and please don't forget to send a postcard when you're over there. I look forward to
postcards, so old school. But yes,
oh, well, you know, go back in time.
We will do. Good,
thanks, great stuff. Thanks for your time, Matt. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye.
How did I know you two getting together to chat about technology would end up in a coffee conversation?
Those mugs are brilliant, though. Like I say, you can get a really good bit of purchase off them. Worth their weight in gold, sir.
There's your top tip from the Check It Out show. Come and get a mug so you can have a good purchase with your coffee.
That's it. Grab it off a stand, have a conversation, and then go and sit and have a chat and get some free coffee from Visa. That's what we want to do.
I like
top
your thinking.
Tip right there. Top tip.
I like your thinking. Listen, matey, we've had some great conversations this evening about GESS and loads of different vendors, lots of CPD, lots of topics that are hot right now in education. Definitely a great space to go learn and share in equal measures. We talked about, obviously, we had Caroline talking from the Visa representation and the UK pavilion. There are lots of people who couldn't be on the show tonight that are going to be there. I certainly don't think between us we can list all of them. We were going to have Jonathan from Action Mats come and share with us. Unfortunately, he's not very well. Love the Action Mats resources, so you'll be able to find them on stand R25. I'm looking at the UK pavilion and I'm slightly overloaded with names and where to look next. But there's plenty of amazing solutions, from reading solutions to Century Tech to Bedrock Learning to TES to Worldwide Teaching. The list goes on really in terms of ISAMs are there. And obviously we've got the Startup Pavilion, UHQ, as well as music, as well as 8 billion ideas. Pobble, who's going to be on our stand, Salamander, who'll be with us on the Net Sports stand. There's a whole raft of people that we've got a lot of time and respect for in the sector that are going to be there. So it's exciting times.
No, absolutely. And if you're still thinking, shall I go? Can I go even? Don't forget, you can just go to the GESSDubai.com website, sign up. The tickets, as Sarah shared at the top of the show, are free. The event runs from the 15th to the 17th of November. And I know you will have not only a fantastic experience, but you will learn an awful lot from attending as well, which can only help shape your digital work and other things, because it's not just about the ed tech, is it? So lots to learn, and the best takeaway, as always, and we heard about this from David earlier, and we share it too. It's all about those relationships, isn't it? Because for all the technology that's out there, it's people that make it work, isn't it? So please do take the time to go along and like Al is, and you'll have picked this up from the other speakers this evening and the other guests on the show. People are really up for a conversation about what we can do to drive learning forward and support children and our communities within our schools. So look forward to you having a fantastic event at GESS next week, and just wish you all the very best until the next Check It Out show. Thanks for joining us.